Imagine a remote archipelago, shrouded in mystery and allure, caught in the crosshairs of empires. What do the British, French, Spanish and Argentinians all have in common? The coveted Falkland Islands, of course. From the first sighting to the battles for control, join us as we explore the fascinating history and enduring intrigue of these windswept isles. Let's dive in. The Falkland Islands, also known as Islas Malvinas in Argentina, were sighted by various European explorers during the Age of Discovery. The first recorded sighting is often attributed to English navigator John Davis, who had joined Thomas Cavendish on his final voyage to uncover the Northwest Passage along the back parts of America. But when Cavendish's expedition returned unsuccessful, Davis embarked on a mission to navigate the Strait of Magellan himself. However, due to battling harsh weather, he stumbled upon the Falkland Islands in August 1592 aboard the Desire. His crew had to hunt hundreds of penguins for food, but the meat spoiled in the tropical heat, leaving only 14 of his 76 men to make it back home alive. It should be noted that some sources suggest that Spanish explorers may have actually sighted the islands earlier. Davis's sighting did not lead to immediate claims or settlements. Then, in the early 1600s, while returning to the Netherlands after navigating the Straits of Magellan, Dutchman Sebald de Weert spotted what he believed were unnamed and uncharted islands that didn't appear on his nautical maps. He attempted to stop and replenish supplies, but he was unable to land due to harsh conditions. These islands, which he charted, were a small group off the northwest coast of the Falkland Islands, today known as the Jason Islands, which are part of the Falklands. De Weert named them the Sebald de Weert Islands, and the islands as a whole became known as the Sebald Islands. That was at least until January 27, 1690, when English captain John Strong made the first recorded landing on the islands. He named the sound between the two main islands Falkland Channel, after Anthony Carey, 5th Viscount Falkland, who was Treasurer of the Navy at the time. He also documented the first sighting of the Falkland Islands wolf, but the islands continued to remain largely unexplored and unclaimed for several more decades. In 1764, French navigator Louis-Antoine de Bougainville established the first permanent settlement on East Falkland, naming it Port Louis, after King Louis XV of France. The French also named the islands Îles Malouines after the port of Saint-Malo in France. Many of the settlers had been from Acadia, which included parts of what are now the maritime provinces, as well as the Gaspe Peninsula and Maine, all the way to the Kennebec River. Bougainville had undertaken the task of resettling Acadians who had been deported to France by the British because of their refusal to sign loyalty oaths. Bougainville's settlement was primarily focused on exploiting the abundant wildlife, including seals and penguins. In 1766, however, under diplomatic pressure, France agreed to cede its settlement to Spain, which had a prior claim based on the 1494 Treaty of Tordesillas. Bougainville was ordered by the French government to dismantle his colony and sell it to the Spanish. He received 200,000 francs in Paris and an additional 500,000 francs in Buenos Aires. Spain renamed the settlement Puerto Soledad and established a garrison. Unaware of the French presence, British captain John Byron explored and established his own settlement in 1765 at Port Egmont on Saunders Island, the fourth largest of the Falkland Islands, and lies northwest of West Falkland. This led to increased tensions between Britain and Spain. In 1770, the Spanish forces expelled the British from Port Egmont, leading to a diplomatic crisis. War was narrowly averted, and the British were allowed to return to their settlement in 1771 under a compromise agreement, while Spain maintained control over Puerto Soledad. Despite the agreement, the British abandoned Port Egmont in 1774 due to economic pressures and the American Revolutionary War. However, they left behind a plaque asserting British sovereignty over the islands. Spain maintained its settlement at Puerto Soledad until 1811, when it withdrew due to the Napoleonic Wars and internal conflicts in its South American colonies. In 1816, Argentina declared its independence from Spain and subsequently claimed the Falkland Islands as part of its territory. In 1820, Colonel David Jewett, an American-born Brazilian naval officer in the service of Argentina, arrived at the islands and claimed them for the United Provinces of the Rio de la Plata, Argentina's predecessor state. In 1823, Argentina granted land on East Falkland to a German merchant, Louis Vernet, who established a settlement in 1828. Vernet's settlement grew, focusing on sealing and cattle ranching. However, conflicts arose with American sealers, leading Vernet to seize their ships. This action prompted a response from the United States, which sent the USS Lexington to the islands in 1831. The Lexington's crew destroyed Vernet's settlement, claiming the actions were in retaliation for the seizure of American ships. In 1833, the British returned to reassert their sovereignty over the Falkland Islands. They expelled the remaining Argentine administration but allowed the civilian population to stay. The British established a permanent naval garrison, ensuring a continuous presence on the islands. Argentina protested the British occupation and has maintained its claim to the islands ever since. Throughout the 19th century, the Falkland Islands developed slowly. Sheep farming became the dominant economic activity, with large estates established by British settlers. The population grew modestly, and Stanley, formerly known as Port Stanley, was established as the capital in 1845. The Falkland Islands Company, founded in 1851, played a significant role in the island's economic development. The island's strategic location made them an important naval base during various conflicts. During the Crimean War, the British used the islands as a coaling station for their ships. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the Falklands served as a key outpost for British naval operations in the South Atlantic. They played a notable role in both World Wars. In World War I, the Battle of the Falkland Islands occurred in December 1914, resulting in a decisive British victory over the German East Asia Squadron. This victory secured British control over the South Atlantic and highlighted the importance of the islands. During the Second World War, the island's location again proved strategic. The British maintained a naval presence to protect shipping routes around Cape Horn and the South Atlantic. The islands were fortified and local defence forces were organised. The most significant event in the modern history of the Falkland Islands was the Falklands War in 1982. By the early 1980s, Argentina was under a military dictatorship led by General Leopoldo Galtieri. Facing economic difficulties and social unrest, the junta sought to bolster its legitimacy by reclaiming the islands. In December 1981, a secret plan was approved to invade the islands, named Operation Rosario. They aimed to assert Argentine sovereignty through a rapid military occupation. On the British side, the government, led by Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, was dealing with economic challenges and a declining military presence overseas. The British government, however, remained committed to defending the Falklands and maintaining its sovereignty over the islands. On April 2, 1982, Argentine forces launched their invasion of the Falkland Islands. The operation began with a landing at Mullet Creek, followed by the capture of the capital, Port Stanley. The small British garrison, led by Major Mike Norman, was quickly overwhelmed. Despite putting up a brief resistance, the British forces were forced to surrender, and the Argentine flag was raised over the islands. The Argentine occupation was met with mixed reactions from the islanders. While some welcomed the Argentines, most of the islanders remained loyal to Britain. The Argentine military established a provisional administration and began fortifying their positions in anticipation of a British response. The British government responded swiftly to the invasion. On April 3, 1982, the United Nations Security Council passed Resolution 502, demanding an immediate cessation of hostilities and the withdrawal of Argentine forces from the Falklands. Simultaneously, the British government initiated a military task force to retake the islands. The British task force, assembled in record time, comprised naval, air, and ground forces. The fleet included aircraft carriers HMS Hermes and HMS Invincible, destroyers, frigates, submarines, and logistics ships. The task force was commanded by Admiral Sir John Fieldhouse and Rear Admiral Sandy Woodward. The naval campaign played a crucial role in the conflict. The British imposed a maritime exclusion zone around the Falklands, effectively isolating the Argentine forces. On May 2nd, the British submarine HMS Conqueror sank the Argentine cruiser ARA General Belgrano, resulting in significant Argentine casualties. This action led to the Argentine Navy retreating to port and avoiding further engagement. The British also suffered losses. On May 4th, the HMS Sheffield, a Type 42 destroyer, was hit by an Exocet missile fired from an Argentine aircraft, leading to the ship's sinking and the loss of 20 crew members. The air campaign saw intense aerial combat between Argentine and British forces. The British Harrier jets, operating from aircraft carriers, provided critical air support for the ground troops and engaged Argentine aircraft. The Harriers, equipped with advanced Sidewinder missiles, proved effective against the older Argentine jets. The Argentine Air Force launched several attacks on British ships using A-4 Skyhawks, Mirage 3, and Super Etendard aircraft. The use of Exocet missiles by the Argentines posed a significant threat to the British fleet. Despite the challenges, the British air defences, including the use of Sea Dart and Seawolf missile systems, managed to protect the fleet from severe damage. The ground campaign began to become more serious on May 21, 1982, with the British landing at San Carlos Bay on the western side of East Falkland. The landing, codenamed Operation Sutton, involved amphibious assaults by British Royal Marines and paratroopers. The British forces quickly established a beachhead, despite facing stiff resistance and air attacks from Argentine forces. Following the successful landing, the British forces advanced towards Stanley, the capital. The advance involved several key battles, including the Battle of Goose Green, where Lieutenant Colonel H. Jones of the 2nd Battalion, Parachute Regiment, posthumously received the Victoria Cross for his bravery. The British forces faced challenging terrain, adverse weather conditions, and determined Argentine resistance. The final assault on the hills surrounding Port Stanley began on June 11th, culminating in the capture of Wireless Ridge and Mount Tumbledown. The Argentine forces, demoralised and suffering from supply shortages, were unable to hold their positions. On June 14th, Argentine Commander General Mario Menendez surrendered, and thus ending the conflict. The Falklands War had significant diplomatic and political implications. The conflict strained relations between Argentina and the United Kingdom. The United States, while maintaining its neutrality, provided critical logistical support to the British forces, including intelligence and supplies. The war also highlighted the role of the United Nations in conflict resolution, with the UN Security Council calling for a peaceful resolution to the dispute. In Argentina, the defeat in the Falklands War led to a crisis of legitimacy for the military junta. The war's outcome exposed the weaknesses of the Argentine military and contributed to the collapse of the dictatorship. In 1983, democratic elections were held, leading to the restoration of civilian rule in Argentina. The war also had a profound impact on the Falkland Islanders, who remained under British sovereignty and experienced a renewed sense of identity and security. While Argentina continues to claim the Falklands, the issue remains a point of diplomatic contention. However, the islanders' wishes and the strategic importance of the islands ensure that they remain firmly under British control. Today, the Falkland Islands are a thriving community with a robust economy based on fishing, tourism, and agriculture. The discovery of potential offshore oil reserves has also opened new economic opportunities. The islands maintain a strong sense of identity and community, shaped by their unique history and remote location. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a comment, hit that subscribe button, check out our other videos, and remember to stay curious.